Welcome to Sage Audio. Today let's compare a free mastering chain versus a pro chain. But first, if you have a mix that you need to have mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Free M Equalizer. For this video, let's go back and forth between a free mastering chain and a paid for one to see how they compare. Also, I keep the chains simple so we can focus on the changes made between each step. First, for the free chain, I inserted this M Equalizer by Melda Audio and switched its processing from stereo to mid and side. Then I created a high shelf filter on the side image, boosted some around 300 Hz, and used a high shelf filter to expand the higher range. Then I emphasized the kick and the vocals on the mid range. The differences are going to be small, so let's take a listen to a full A and B of the free mastering chain and the professional or the paid for chain. Split EQ by Eventide. For the first insert of the Pro chain, I'll use the Split EQ by Eventide to affect my tonal and transient dynamics separately. With this bigger display, I was able to make more minute changes and ended up boosting the low, vocal range, and the high transients. Then with the tonal band, I amplified a little around 300 Hz, around the vocal and the highs as well. Let's take a listen to a before and after of this EQ being enabled. If you're enjoying the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It's free, and it helps us bring you more videos. Free GSAT Plus by TB Pro Audio. Next up on the free side, I inserted this GSAT Plus and used its crisp algorithm to add some brightness to the hard pan guitars. I increased the stages, then added in odd and even harmonics to fill the spectrum before increasing the input while compensating with the output. Lastly, I turned on 4x oversampling to reduce aliasing. So let's take a listen to how this saturator filled out the mix. FabFilter, Saturn II. Next up on the paid side, I used this Saturn II plugin and isolated 4 bands for distinct saturation on each. Now at the bottom, I created and linked envelope followers to make the distortion program dependent before making this routing mid-side and panning the distortion. Now this helped me isolate the distortion on the lows and the vocals to the mid image and the distortion on the low mids and the highs to the side image. Lastly, I enabled oversampling at the bottom. Let's take a listen and let me know if you think that this extra processing made a notable difference compared to the free chain saturator. Free Comper by Analog Obsession. Next, let's add in some mild compression to control dynamics before the limiting stage. On the free chain, I'm using this Comper plugin, with which I'm emulating VCA and FET compression on both my left and my right channels. I've set faster attack and release times, and only have about a dB of attenuation. Lastly, I turned on oversampling by clicking the Analog Obsession icon. So let's take a listen to how this plugin controls the dynamics, and if it's adding in some character with its unique compression types. If you haven't already, join the Al Parliament to show your support in a community of musicians, producers, and engineers dedicated to making music. Link in the description. Presswork by Yuhi. On the Pro chain, I went with this Presswork compressor by Yuhi, set the detection to integrated or a combination of both feedback and feed forward before delinking the channels and switching to mid and side. Now you'll notice I was able to compress the mid a little more, causing dynamic stereo expansion. I also introduced some mild saturation at the bottom and set quicker attack and release times for my side image. Let's take a listen. Free limiter number 6. Moving on to limiters, I inserted limiter number 6 on my free chain, and with a delinked multiband setting, got a few dB of attenuation. I also enabled the high frequency limiter and the clipper, getting a few dB of attenuation on those as well. Up top, I switched to a minimum latency mode. Let's take a listen to how this plugin increases perceived loudness, and it adds some high frequencies with the clipper. If you're enjoying the channel, use the search box to watch more of our videos. Sonic's Oxford Limiter. On the Pro side, I increased a lot of the track's details with the Oxford Limiter, mainly by increasing the enhanced slider. With it, I didn't need to attenuate too much to get a loud sound. As you can see, I'm only attenuating by less than 1 dB. Let's take a listen and notice how the enhanced slide in particular increases detail and perceived loudness. Free Clip by Ven Audio. Last up for the free chain, let's use this Free Clip plugin to introduce hard clipping and add some high frequencies whenever the threshold is crossed. I increased the input level, decreased the output, kept the hard clipping setting, and enabled oversampling. Let's take a listen to how this gets the master to a loud level, but how it still has dynamics and some transient detail. Newfangled Audio's Saturate. Last up for the Pro or the paid for plugin chain, I added in the Saturate plugin, which allows for hard clipping and gives us the option to retain details. With the drive dial, I pushed the signal into it, achieved a couple dB of attenuation, and then I lowered the output. Let's take a listen one more time to the full A and B of both masters to compare. If you have a mix that you need to have mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching.